Leilani. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you? Really happy you've popped over and chatting to me.
I'm glad you've hopped in Hope today. So would you like to introduce yourself? Who are you and where can people find you on socials?
So I'm Leilani Dowding on socials. I've been thrown off Instagram, so the best place to find me is on Twitter. I am still on Instagram under a new name, but I don't want to say it in case they throw me off again. And then I'm on Facebook, obviously, as well. And you can also see me sometimes Thursday nights on GB News and also Tuesdays on Iconic.
What time is this? Is it different times or the same times?
7 p.m. for Iconic on Tuesdays, but you can watch that on replay kind of throughout the week. And then GB News is with Mark Stein on Thursdays, and he's on between 8 and 9, so I could be on any time between then.
And what I really like about the conversations that you have is I feel like I'm not saying you speak on behalf of everyone, but the language that you use, how you just form conversation, and I just feel that you're very normal.
Thank you.
Like when people have been saying for the last 2 years, like, you're not a scientist, you're not this, you're not that, and it's like, no, but most people aren't. Most people are just normal people that speak normal.
and use common sense as well. And you know what it is I think I'm not very eloquent. I'm not the most eloquent person in the world, but I try and get my point across as simply as I can. So I don't know if it's because my mum's from the Philippines and our English, she's understandable. But she's not like, Russell Brand with all this amazing language. I just don't have that kind of vocabulary. So I just try and explain things in the most simple terms possible.
But very often people can just simply baffle with bullshit and give these long convoluted sentences that when you actually strip them down, they've said nothing.
That's true. I try and say my point in as little words as possible, I guess.
And I like Russell Brand. I don't watch his podcast, Russell, if you're watching, I'm sorry. But I do watch his little short videos that kind of pop up. But even those short videos, I find myself having to search what these words are he's using because I've not heard of most of them.
I know, I kind of get mystified and drawn in by them, and it's I don't know. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but some other people will use it in almost like a conjuring trick, a lot of politicians, that you get caught up in all these big words that as you said, what they're saying means nothing.
Nothing at all, yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to speak to you today is about social media, and I guess the changes that you've seen from your modelling career and the pressures and the amount of use of social media and how people are with their body image and self-esteem. So can you start by telling us a bit about your modelling career?
So 1998 I won Miss Great Britain and went to Miss Universe. So that was all the start, really. I was spotted, I entered, and it was crazy that I won it. Then I joined a modelling agency and I saw the kinds of things that I wanted to do. I wanted to be the glamorous girl, not, I was never going to be the stick thin, heroin chic kind of Kate Moss, skinny, tall, fashion model. So, I wanted to do the more girl next door, cute, glamorous girl thing. But it just turned out that loads of the girls going up for those kind of roles were page 3 girls, and they were getting them all. It was significant because I remember a Twiglets ad. I really wanted this Twiglets ad, but it was all page 3 girls that got it. And then page 3 girls got pantomime. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And I did it. And I've got to say, I actually had such a great time. It was probably one of the most fun times in my life. I've got friends that I made then that I'm still friends with now. We went out and visited the troops in Iraq and I think Cyprus and also Bosnia, and it was amazing. It was really great. And I was young, I was in my 20s, but there was no social media then. No one could kind of interact with us. There wasn't really web pages, so it wasn't you like the Daily Mail now or the Sun now, where you read something, you see all these vile comments underneath. It wasn't really like that. It was just the papers, and we were almost protected. So if someone was saying something bad, there was no way for it to get to you. And I think that's a big problem. I think that's a big problem now, is that, you can just get under attack on all these different forms of social media, no matter what you do. And I think, from the last 2 years, I've got a very thick tough skin from all the comments and the negativity that I've had from speaking out. But I think that comes from, my modelling days and once I got past that and doing reality shows and stuff like that, I've managed to ignore it all, I think.
I watched a video the other day, and I'm going to get this completely wrong because I cannot re-find the video. But the guy was doing a talk at some conference, and he was saying, "Your blue hair's stupid. That has no effect on you because you haven't got blue hair." So when you hear these things, when you see these things, if you know they're not true, like, just act like they're telling you you've got blue hair. Like, you haven't, so it doesn't impact you, doesn't penetrate you. And I watched that, and that's something that I definitely, because I'm okay. I'm much better now than before I started the walk. However, I don't know if I should say this or whether this is just encouraging trolling. One of the things that still gets to me is about when people say, like, "Oh, you're making all this money." The people that have got jobs themselves. You're making all this money, and you spent all these people's GoFundMe, and they in good faith supported you and donated it to you. And I'm like, you obviously haven't read any of the updates that say I haven't spent a single penny on me. So that's the only thing right now that does bug me, and I'm getting better at it.
I know it's really hard though, because I've seen what you've done and you've raised money for charity. And I think people think that if you have charity and you raise money for charity, you must live like a pauper. You can't spend money on your career. And your own money, I'm talking about. You can't spend your own money on nice things. If you have a GoFundMe, but the GoFundMe's there for everybody to help you help everyone else, like, with the dogs and the food, giving the food to the homeless shelters and stuff. And it was really nice to see that, because I do remember that. And I remember that everyone was donating everything to go to Ukraine, but I was like, what about the people here? And you went out and you took, the food from the supermarket to the homeless shelter. And you know what? People gave that money to you, and you put in your time to do it. And that was the GoFundMe. And then whatever you do with your own money on the side to, build a podcast or invest in your career or do whatever you want, that's totally up to you. It's so stupid when these trolls do it, and you just have to flat out ignore them.
Yeah, the stories that they make up in their heads as well. And when you're saying about the supermarkets and stuff, like, yeah, they haven't watched these videos, they haven't paid any attention to the updates and things like that. So yeah, that's the only thing now that I need to get better at doing. So when did you notice a change, and were you still modelling when kind of social media was what was it doing? It was getting bigger. More people were using it.
Do you know what? I was modelling probably 20 years ago, maybe latest 15 years ago, and there wasn't much social media. I remember one of the girls that was a page 3 girl was one of the first girls to have a website. So one of the girls, why is that doing that?
Don't know. Oh, wait there. Is that something
someone's
to
at the gate.
Sorry.
I was doing a Prince Charles, wasn't I, with my eyes like, oh, what's going on? Get that away! Get that noise away!
I've lost my thread a little bit, but what I was going to say was, so the ones that are criticising as well, they're not. I read this a lot. No one doing better than you will criticise you.
Right.
So, I've seen, so for me, like with the charity stuff, like anyone doing that will know the work that goes into it. And I was growing this platform. I wasn't accepting donations for me, but I thought, what a shame if I didn't use that platform to help other people.
Right.
So all these people that are attacking me, like, that's almost like the price I'm paying for helping other people, and it really upsets me because I think I can see why people don't even try.
Well, this is the thing as well, and it's the same as the people that have been speaking out. So if you speak out and you try and keep your platform and you be careful. So I've lost my Instagram at 67,000 people, and now I have no reach on my Instagram. So it was stupid. I should have been more careful, and if I was more careful, then I wouldn't have been taken down, and I can still reach people in different ways, maybe slightly more coded. But you have all these people that come out and say, you're not saying enough and you're not doing this. Okay, well, what's the point? If people are going to get their platforms removed, then they can't reach out to anyone. So it's the same thing. It's like these people that are literally doing nothing with a small reach, that are having a go at people who are trying to wake people up, but they have to be slightly careful so they don't get taken down, because then they can't reach anyone. It's the same, and it's kind of the same thing. Like, you know, the people that are not doing so well have always got to criticise the ones that are doing something. But going back to what you were saying about social media,
there we go, 20 years. That was it, 20 years,
20
15 years.
years.
Yes, we're back. We're back
we're
in the ring
back.
now.
We're back on the track. About my friend was probably one of the first people that had her own website, and she made a fortune. She was one of the first girls that had that website, and then it's definitely way before Instagram. So I don't know how things. I can't even imagine how things would have been, whether it would have really elevated our careers to something else, or whether it would have just diluted it, because the whole thing now is very diluted about, you know, how many social media followers you have, and if you're engaging in social media, and it takes away from, you know, your actual, when you were working or modelling or turning up on shoots, and, you know, you can't just do selfies here and there because you have to get your, you know, jobs done.
Do you have any regrets? Is there anything that you regretted about your career?
No, like none. I loved it, and you know, people now, it's really funny. It's like I'll be on GB News and then talking about some really important issue like lockdown, say, and somebody will come on and be like, oh God, how are we listening to a page 3 girl talking about lockdowns? It's like, wait a minute, first of all, it was a page 3 girl 20 years ago, so thank you for remembering. But also, I'm a member of society. I've seen a lot, I've done a lot,
You've met a lot of different people as well.
Yeah, and I've travelled, and I've got 20 years of experience of what I want to say and what I bring, you know, to the table on that particular day. So it's just so annoying to me. I find it so stupid when people go, oh, we're listening to a page 3 girl. No, you're listening to a fellow human being who's living a similar life, or a different life, or coming from it from a different angle or a different perspective. So
did they ever attack your message, or did they just attack you?
No, not even the message. Just me.
Because it's easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, so I haven't got anything to debate, or I haven't got a counter argument for what you're saying, so I'll just call you names.
Yeah. It's pathetic, isn't it? And you know what? I just let it go over my head, because you know, the majority of people, I think, that tune in are watching for a reason, and they understand, you know. So
have you got any advice for how people, because, you know, not everyone has that thick skin, and certainly over the last, I want to say 5 years, but to be honest, it's probably a little bit longer than that now, but let's just pretend 5 years. Certainly over the last 5 years, I have developed more resiliency and assertiveness, because I was just so emotional, and something would impact me, and I would just kind of like be in a pile, in a mess on the floor. But now when I think about what I not tolerate, but what I can handle now, there's been a lot of growth and development. Have you got any tips of how you can help someone maybe listening now who is maybe like me, an emotional wreck on the floor and stuff, and not able to handle that criticism? How can you get past it?
It's a hard one, because I think I've had years of it, and like I said, it wasn't social media, so in a way it was maybe slightly worse, because if anyone did kind of attack me, it would be more on a face-to-face level, not physically. I know I was never attacked physically, but like, you know, verbally or something, or would say it to people I knew and it would get back to me, or I'd hear what people were saying. So I think you just build up a resilience to it. Like, you have, when it happens enough, you kind of get this thick skin. It's a very different subject as well, but I think people aren't taught how to face any kind of negativity in school, anywhere, because everything's all like, you know,
everyone's
very nice. Everyone's a winner. Here's a participation award and trophy. So no one ever gets to feel failure or any kind of negative talk, or you know. So I mean, obviously, if anything's physical, that's like a whole different thing. But, you know, if we're just talking about, you know, bad comments and words. And then I remember my dad would always say, sticks and stones will break your bones, but names will never hurt you. And that was something that he taught me like as a child. So I think that was another thing as well that made me, you know, a lot tougher mentally. I think you've handled it. I think you handled it pretty well, 'cause especially, you know, you got thrown into this kind of limelight simply for asking questions. You know, it wasn't like me where I was in that industry that kind of invites people to make comments and talk about you, and you know, you're like a public persona, so of course, or as public persona, so of course, you know, that kind of goes with it. You know, you're like public property, so you can talk about them as however you want. So you know, you'd come from being a nurse, you just simply ask questions. So it was, I think you got thrown into it in a very different way.
Yeah, I would agree. And with you saying there about public property as well, it is interesting how people will speak to you. I mean, don't get me wrong, some people were quite verbally aggressive to me in the street, but so much more on social media. And when you say, like, you know, you're public property, like, just because you're on social media, it is interesting the different attitudes people show towards you face to face, and then that they show on social media, and the messages they send. And I used to get like vile voice notes from really angry men, really angry men. They were so mad at me. So going back to you, so yeah, changes in socials. When did you get your first phone? I think I was 13, so I would have been at high school. 19.
Oh yeah, you're way younger than me. I'm way older. No, definitely not till I was working, so like maybe 18, 19. I remember I used to have to go to a payphone to call my agent. That was when I was 18. I had to go to a payphone, or, you know, if I wasn't at home, to call my agent to ask. And at the time, I mean, phone, you know, a mobile phone, it was like, I don't know, 20p a minute to make a call. It was insane. You know, there was no...
And the text messages where you'd like take out the vowels.
Yes.
So you'd squidge it all together. So
because you had to pay per text. It was like pay per text. It was like crazy money a minute. I do remember having some insane phone bills from back in the day when I was modelling. And I just look back, I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine I would have paid that. That's crazy money. There was none of this like unlimited text, unlimited phone call tariffs. It was just like...
Yeah. There's people watching this now that are like, what?
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
What?
But I had like the flip phone, like the Motorola, I had the Nokia. And actually during lockdowns, I brought out my Nokia because, you know, they don't trace it the same way. There's no track and trace app and stuff. So I was like, you know, the older non-smartphones might be a weapon for, you know, World War III against us.
Oh, what is it? Smartphone stupid people.
Yeah.
I remember, so YouTube came out when I was doing my nurse training. And I remember the consultants, I was on my A&E placement, and the consultants were talking about it. And I had no idea what they were talking about. And I was like, YouTube? Is that something like naughty, or like what is that? And now I sound like really completely naive and silly. How much time do you think you spend on social media or on your phone?
Too much. Oh, I'm on it such a lot. So I think it got excessive when I was in lockdowns. It was excessive because there was not that much for me to do. You know, I don't work full time, so I'm on it way more than the average person. When I moved to a farm. It's funny, you moved at the same time. You, just for those people that like to talk about spending money, you did a really smart thing. You downsized, because you saw what was coming. I saw what was coming because we had this conversation, and you downsized to be mortgage free. Can I say that?
Yeah.
So you don't, you know, and that was a really smart thing to do.
Which people could do themselves. And it's about what you want to do and what you need to do.
Exactly.
And do you know what? I would have wanted a bigger garden and out for the dogs and a drive and all that stuff. But what I needed to do, if I wanted to continue to have the freedom of speech, I needed to downsize. But people don't want to do that all the time. So
No.
other people can do that if they want to.
And I remember that, and it was one of those times where it was like, gosh, what is the future going to bring? What if I lose my job? You were thinking, what if mortgage payments go up, which we've seen happen? So you did that, and then I moved to a place that I could have my horses at home, because my biggest fear in the world was that I wasn't going to be able to travel to see my horses, whether it was a climate change lockdown, a COVID lockdown, any kind of lockdown, anything where I just had these nightmares of being stopped on the street asking for my papers on my way to see my horses, and it was absolutely terrifying to me. But the whole thing of this story is that we moved to a place where I needed to fix up a cottage, and I spent so much time fixing up this cottage that I barely looked at my phone at all, and it was amazing. I was literally in my own little world, and it was my own little world, and I was fixing up and painting and doing everything myself. That I was like, being cheap, didn't want to pay everyone to do it. But I was like, right, I'm going to learn to do this. I'm going to learn how to fill in some rotten window sills.
And it looks great.
Thank you. And I'm going to learn how to sand, and I'm going to do it. So I stayed off my phone, and then I don't know whether it's a blessing or a curse, I got asked to go on GB News. And I was like, oh my goodness, that means I remember thinking, I haven't looked at my phone for 2 weeks. Like, what's going on in the world? And it was a blessing, but I was like, text my friends, right, what's happening? What's going on here? Fill me in. I need to know, like, 2 weeks.
What's the next big thing?
Yeah, what's been happening? I just don't know. And it was a good feeling to not know, but then obviously I got a regular slot, so I have to keep in touch with what's going on. And I don't like to really go on when I want to know when I want to get my news. My mum says, you're always on the phone. I'm like, Mum, you're always watching TV and getting your news off BBC. When I want to get my news, I'd rather go on social media and see what people are saying and see other people's views, get a whole mix, see some like important articles that are relevant to me, because I guess the algorithm show up some of these articles,
and check in the comments to see what people are saying as well.
And yeah, exactly, really important, and see what they believe. So yeah, long answer to a very simple question. Way too much.
But then if you think about, so you said that you don't work full time, but that's almost part of your working hours as well. So I had a look, and the average time, which I was surprised at, but it says the average time worldwide is 2.5 hours. The average time in the UK is 1 hour 50 minutes on social media in the UK. But then the average time spent on the internet is 6 hours 12 minutes. But I guess if you think about like work and things, people are on the internet a lot. But I was surprised at that. I thought that was going to be much higher.
Is that because we're on it a lot?
Yeah, maybe. But I think for me, social media isn't the problem. It's how people use social media and the habits they get into. And I think, you want to be using social media. You don't want social media to start using you.
Yeah.
And that leads me into some of the points. Have you watched The Great Hack?
No.
So there's The Great Hack, which is... That tells you, so that's on Netflix, and that tells you how social media can manipulate elections and things like that. Okay. And there was one, I can't remember which place in the world it was. Oh my gosh, this is why I don't do statistics, because I can't remember
we need Jamie
anything.
Stats. Jamie Stats.
Can we get him on the phone line, please? Okay, I'm going to completely mess this one up now. But somewhere in the world, if you can describe it better in the comments, please do. There was an election, and there was 2 groups of people, so we'll say blue and red for ease. And rather than trying to get the red people to vote, how they impacted their social media was they encouraged the blue people not to vote.
Interesting.
And they were like doing the no vote dance, and they were all out doing this dance and stuff, and the red team, whoever the red team was, won. And I think people don't realise how much they're being manipulated online.
I don't think they do. There was so much manipulation going on. And I mean, it's happening everywhere. And people think if they're not watching the media the mainstream media and the government's sage advisors manipulating all of that it won't happen on social media, but it really can. There's another documentary, I get numbers wrong as well. Is it 4,000 Mules or 2,000 Mules?
Oh, yeah.
About how...
I want to say 3,000. I don't know. No, it might be two.
Or 4, okay. Or 10. There's a lot of mules anyway. And that's probably that's how the elections were manipulated. Although that could be in the media. And actually, I did see another thing. This is really interesting. Zuckerberg actually came out and said... He allowed people to talk about the Hunter Biden laptop.
I've got no signal. I'm not going to try and find it.
He allowed people to talk about the Hunter Biden laptop just before the Biden-Trump elections, but they were all put down lower into people's feeds so people wouldn't see them. So it was purposefully done. He goes, but not like Twitter, who wouldn't allow you to talk about the Hunter Biden laptop at all.
So we just hid it.
Yeah, exactly. So we did, but it was hidden. And that was because, we spoke to the FBI and the FBI wanted us to do it for a week. And he literally verbatim said that on a Joe Rogan podcast. So there you go. There's an example of how things are manipulated on social media, and they really are. It's like there's certain things you can't talk about still on social media, and you get banned for. One of the treatments for COVID, you can't talk about it.
I don't think we can say the C word.
Oh,
I don't know if we can say that yet.
No.
Yeah, we'll bring out the code.
Yeah.
But I read something, so Facebook were doing research, but they weren't letting people know. And what they were looking for was emotional contagion. So they only showed positive news to you. They only showed negative news to me. And we're looking at how that impacted people. And it did. It impacted them either positively or negatively.
Yeah.
And that was, 700,000 unknowing participants were manipulated. And I don't know how that, because you're not supposed to cause harm, like, and you're supposed to let people know, like informed consent and things. So I need to do a little bit more digging, but it just seems so unethical just to be like, I'll change that button.
Well, but it's another thing that said that that's exactly what happened. And they found that people that saw some negative news would engage for longer and probably like write a comment or something like that. Because they were mad. So it kind of helps social media go, oh, this is what we do. People are on our platform for this much longer. These are people writing comments. It all helps them. But the reality is it's because they were like, right, let's feed more bad news in, and then we can get people like on our platforms for much longer. And I think it's true. I think it is true.
Yeah, well, if you think about like leaving reviews, I am a huge fan on leaving reviews. I think I've only ever, because like for small businesses and things, I think I've only ever left 2 or 3 negative ones. And for one of them, I actually waited 3 months because I didn't want it to come across like really emotionally driven. Like I genuinely wanted it to be of help to potential customers. So I leave very few negative reviews, but I think a lot of people will tend to leave negative ones more frequently, just to like vent and just project their anger and frustration rather than just having a conversation with the waiter. They're more likely to then leave a negative review later on. So that makes complete sense that people would do that and stay in that cycle.
And it also ties in with what we were saying about the way that people react on social media versus like in person. Like in person, people, you're more likely to be able to talk something through more rationally and have a conversation than if you go on social media and just say, because you're kind of protected, right? So
it's like people being in their cars and getting road rage because they've got the car around them. That's their territory, that's their space. And when they're on social media, that's their zone, isn't it? So they're more likely to go mad. There's a book, so the book's called The Cyber Effect, and I listened to the audio version, and I just wondered so there's 3 points of the book that I wanted to discuss. One of them, she talks about a teenager taking a selfie. So this teenager is in a room, she maybe takes 100 selfies, and she's not happy with any of them. So then she adds filters, and then she spends all this time like perfecting this image of her. She then puts it out on social media, and it doesn't get 150 likes or however many likes her expectation is. So then she feels rejected. And I was shocked, absolutely shocked, that there are children, teenagers who will self-harm when they don't get a specific number of likes.
Wow.
Because it has that much of a negative effect on them. But this one, what they're saying is, so even when you like perfect yourself with all these filters, if that perfect version of you is not accepted, how can your real life version of you be accepted?
See, this is huge. I think this is huge, and we should, goes back to what we were saying before. So these apps have all these filters now, so you're not even seeing the real person. So I think it started off and people were like, wow, that's so perfect, and this is how we should be, and we've
got Crocs and sliders and socks on.
Yeah. And you were seeing this version of people's lives where it was all perfect and it's very materialistic, and this is what I'm wearing and this is this. And then you saw the filters, and a lot of people didn't understand filters when they very first came out, and the filters were stupid things like the doggy ears or whatever.
Yeah,
so then
novelty.
that was kind of obvious it was a filter. But then you started having all these beauty filters, and people were like feeling they're not up to this standard. Well, people don't have skin like that. People do not have perfect skin. And, even if you have the best photographer and the best makeup artist and the best lighting, it's still not always perfect. And then, they used to Photoshop in magazines. But the whole thing with social media, there was that, these random little shots would be more kind of reality. And then I think what happened is then people now know that it's so photoshopped. They're like, that's not you. And then they just kind of laugh at it. Like I've seen with so many celebrities. I've just seen one. I'm going to say her name because I don't care. It was Chloe Sims, and her face was so blurred out, and there was just these white teeth. And Katie Price is another one. Just the face like such a blur with so many filters. I just, I'm not going to say anything more negative than I just scroll past. Like I can't look or engage with any of that nonsense. And so people might be trying to do this perfect thing, and a lot of people now are like, just like, oh my goodness, like that's not even real, like stop. So I think there's two sides to that. They're thinking it's because they're not perfect, but actually people don't want to see everything in perfection. Most of my things now, I remember when I was doing the Housewives, everything was the Real Housewives of Cheshire, everything was like, they want everything to be like super glam, and they pick all the best parts of these women's lives and my lives. And I was like, well, I want you to see me with my horses, and I want you to see me with my dogs, and I want you to see me doing my everyday stuff where I'm in my sweatpants. But they would never.
Which is how I've seen you 98% of the time.
See it all the time, right? Which is, they would never pick that stuff because it doesn't portray the image of the housewives. But nearly all the housewives I know, real housewives, are the same way. Like, half the time I'm mucking up my field. Mm-hmm. So I'm in yoga pants if I'm doing yoga, which I haven't done for ages. What was that news
story about you? What's your new career now?
Oh, cleaning horse penises. No one understands what it is there's a YouTube video, and it's insane.
I've never heard of it until I saw your video.
I know. It's had 2.2 million views, I think, in like a month and a half. And I said on the video that when I lived in Los Angeles, I used to do this for people. They would pay me like 25 quid a time to clean their horse's penis. Now it is it is funny because it is a legitimate thing that equestrians have to do, and some people don't like to do it. Fair enough. They're like far too squeamish, so they have someone come out and do it. So one of my friends she was a top show jumper. She had like 6 or 7 horses, hadn't been cleaned for like 6 months. She's like, can you come round and clean them? And then she'd give me like 25 quid a horse to do it. I was like, great, yeah, no worries, I'll get my hands dirty, whatever. So I showed and explained how to do it, and my horse, who's very used to me doing it, I've had him like 8 or 9 years. By the way, he has no balls, right? So there's nothing. He like relaxes, and he actually lets me do it. It's fully came out. I was laughing my head off. But anyway, I did say, they said my secret career used to be cleaning horse penises. And so I just
it's not very secret if you say it.
Exactly, that's the thing. It isn't very secret, is it? So no, it's pretty funny, but yeah, that's I'm like, I get my hands dirty person. I'm usually mucking out fields, mucking out stables, shoveling poop on my mucky, getting that all nice and tidy. And you're not going to wear your nice shoes for that, are you? So.
And kind of going completely off conversation here. We're talking about, like, in the media right now, there's a lot of things about stereotypes, and that's a very tomboyish, masculine thing to do, whereas your modelling is a very feminine thing. And I guess, what they're talking about now with the gender issues is they say that gender's a social construct, yet then they use stereotypes to label people, But, like, the Leilani that I know is always kind of, like, very relaxed, like doing, like, you're very practical and you're always busy. And, that is quite a tomboyish way of life. It's not a particularly feminine way.
Yeah.
If you were to look at the stereotypes.
Totally.
And I think that, if you were to be looking at the media and think, oh gosh, well, that's how I have to be. I have to be one of these characters. Right. I can't, like, this isn't the whole of Leilani. I can either fit in this box or that box. I think it's just so confusing, the messages that are put out in the media.
Well, that's the thing. That's another thing I think confuses children as well today, because they're like, this is what a good woman is. And a woman, look at all the trans women, high heels, hair, loads of makeup. So if you like to do this, then you're a woman and you're in the wrong body and you're the wrong gender and you're the wrong sex. You should try and change to be a woman and have a sex change, and the same the other way around. So I just think, so when I was like 16, I used to play rugby, never wore makeup. I actually got
big
my
shoulders.
those huge John Boy shoulders. So I went to my school actually started a girls rugby team my year, that me and another girl, Claire Davis her name was. We were like real tomboys, and we wanted a rugby team because we just thought it was really cool. Like, rugby was really cool and the boys did it and we wanted to do, and I was like the kid that wanted to play with Transformers, didn't want to play Barbie. Like, Transformers were just so much cooler than a Barbie doll to me. I just wore trousers, I wanted to climb trees. I would do everything a little boy does, and all the girly things would like recoil. Like, I wasn't that girl. And then I think my parents thought I was a lesbian or something, because I didn't have boy posters up. I was just a real tomboy. And I think now you're not allowed to be that. They'd say to me, Leilani, do you think you're in the wrong body? You're not a very feminine girl. You're not doing this. And it's really weird, because it's actually quite sexist, because it's kind of saying, if you're a boy and you want to ballet dance, like, what's that movie? I'm jumping all over subjects here. There's a movie about the boy that wanted to... Billy Elliot. They would say, it wouldn't be about Billy Elliot wanting to be a dancer. They say, Billy, you must want to be a girl. You need to change sex. And I think that's what the media messages to people, not about Billy Elliot, the boy who wanted to be a ballerina or a dancer, or Leilani, the girl that wants to play rugby and roll around in mud and not wear makeup and do tomboy things. That was the message. And I think as well with, it's almost like they're telling gay kids that they must be the wrong sex, and yeah. I could just rant. I'm gonna let you speak, because I could just like.
They're not letting people like work out who they are.
No,
like, no time is given. Like, there's so much pressure. Like, make a decision now. Make it before it's too late. You might regret it if you don't make it now.
Another thing is, like, obviously when I was 18, then I went and did page 3. I was from 16 to 18, and then at 18 I was like the glamorous girl. I won Miss Great Britain. Then I went to be a page 3 girl, and I showed my boobs and loved and embraced being a woman. But I know, even as a woman, I can go back and be the tomboy girl that doesn't have to do her hair, that doesn't have to wear makeup, that doesn't have to put heels on, and I can do both. and it doesn't make me one gender or another gender. And just telling kids that they can't do things, or that if they're doing certain things that they should think about what body they're in, it's just ridiculous. I don't think that any of the things that we do as human beings say, right, you should be this way or you should be this way, and if you do, you know, if you want to do this is more associated to girls, you should become a girl.
Yeah, obsessed with labels. Back to the makeup one. Makeup and filters, are they the same or different? What do you think? Like, because I think they are different.
I think different.
I do not like filters. I don't think they are healthy. I don't think they help women long term. Whereas I think, because people will say, oh, well, people wear makeup.
Not the same.
But that gives, there's more of a realistic expectation there, because you can improve your makeup skill. You know, my gosh, some of the girls like I've seen do their makeup, like, I don't know whether they've got university degrees in it or something, but they're amazing.
Yeah.
But that's you working like with whatever you want to do. Whereas the filter, it's like, so if we were to do like the same filter, it would be like our skin would look exactly the same.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they're the same. I don't think you can compare the filters on social media with makeup.
I think makeup can be like an expression, and it's temporary, right? And if I see you in makeup, I see you in person in makeup, and that's how you look with makeup on. When you do a filter, it's like you go missing, someone kidnaps you. Who do we look for? Because this person does not look like the real
That's a really
you.
good point. People at home. Listen to me. People at home. But people will be like, no, that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous point. It's never going to happen. But actually, you're right there. If people are using only social media, because how often do we print pictures? So if they've got no photographs that are unfiltered, no, I think that's a really good point.
Like, who do you look like? You know?
Yeah.
And I think, and you know what? If you have too much makeup on in person, makeup in a photo is one thing. If you have too much makeup on in person, it doesn't look great anyway. You see it caked on, you know. So sometimes you go into like these makeup counters and people are just like caked in it. And, you know, it's not crazily attractive. But at the same time, like, that's how I'm looking, you know, that's how I'm looking at them. That's how you look, because you're there in front of me as that. But yeah, when you have filters, it's just totally, you're looking at a different person.
Yeah, when me and Rob got married, so I went, because I don't wear makeup very often, but I quite like every now and again, because it makes me feel like I've made a bit of an effort as well. Like, I quite like that change. And then I had my hair and makeup done, and I said, like, just very little, very, very little. Yeah. And I remember kind of like opening my eyes and thinking, oh my gosh, no, this is too much. And I rang Rob, and we were like going to get married in 15 minutes, because like we did it in Vegas, so it was all kind of like, and I was like, babe, you need to bring me some of them face wipes down, because like my face just, it isn't my face.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about one of the things was like social isolation from that I was reading about how social media negatively impacts people. And I almost feel like people are in search of community, in search of people who understand them. They can then find a pocket in social media that understands them. But then if they're using all these filters and not living their actual life, because everything, they have to move the cup around and move the plate and move everything to make it look perfect, these people are then not meeting up in real life, and they're only knowing like digital friends.
Yeah.
They're not meeting up in person. They're not developing skills. And I think a lot of people, well, I know that a lot of people that are coming from university into the workplace are struggling with things like phone calls, because they're just so used to
texts and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I can see that happening, because I think there's a lot of, even before lockdowns, there were a lot of socially awkward people, or, you know, they might be shy or nervous or whatever, but keeping people isolated and then building up, like, you know, only online kind of communities without actually going out and meeting these people, it's only going to make things worse, because you're not learning how to interact in person.
Or how to get rejected, like what you said before. Yeah. all of those skills that you've developed through having a modelling career, meeting different people, different characteristics, different personalities, different temperaments, you've developed those skills. So even like rejection, someone not turning up to meet you or something like that.
Right, exactly. And that has to happen, from... I think that has to happen from being in person and being with something like, whether it's a job interview. I mean, it's not just, life isn't the same when you do a job. I'm sure when you do a job interview online and you don't get it, it probably doesn't feel the same way as when you've spent the morning preparing. You go in there, you go into the office. When everything is online, it's almost like it's not real. So I don't know if I can explain it very well. I've got the thoughts in my head, but I don't know if that explains it very well. But when things happen in person, it feels a lot more real. Well,
one of the other examples in the book was the expectations of sex. So what this lady was describing was, so if we were to meet at a bar and then we liked each other and we exchanged numbers and then we were going to go on a date or whatever, someone will just snip out that contact and they'll take it out of context. Leilani saying she's a lesbian and then Jenna saying we're going on a date. So we met at a bar and, we liked each other, we exchanged phone numbers and then we said, let's meet up at the weekend and we'll go to the cinema or we'll go for a meal or we'll go for a coffee or whatever. Whereas if people are being on like dating apps, they will almost go get straight through to foreplay before having their first date.
Right.
So then when they have their first date, because of all these racy text messages that they've been sending, they've now set the expectation that they're going to sleep with each other, and it increases promiscuity. No, that one. This is why I've always got a notepad and I haven't wrote that word down.
This is why I'm not that eloquent. I don't have that vocabulary. I was talking about, what is it?
See, it's because my husband's not here. Normally I'd look at him and he'd be correcting me. But yeah, there's that meme that says changing the word so you can spell it. But it encourages people to sleep with people more earlier and form these bonds that aren't real bonds,
right?
Because it's almost like, I don't know whether you've seen that cult documentary on Netflix, the Nexium one with Keith someone or other, and they have to give collateral, so they have to like send naked pictures of each other and then that is used against them. So I'm not saying that on the first date they are saying like, I'll put all these on the website, but that person's got it. And if you don't meet their expectations and they get a little bit angry, then maybe they will just put it on Facebook or on one of these websites.
So I think that is a huge thing. I think.
So sorry, what you were saying there was about social media, online stuff, and in person. So sorry, because I gave a long point then, but I was just saying the difference there about the two. Meeting someone dating and meeting someone online dating.
That's huge, and I also think that because of movies, where in movies people meet, they're attracted to each other. It's an hour and a half movie. By the end of the movie, they're having sex already. That people have forgotten or don't know, like the dating thing. And I know a lot of people that have been, say, like married for 10, 15 years or newly divorced, that go back onto the dating thing and they're like, what is going on? Like, people literally expect you to shag them right away. It's crazy. And I think it's a huge problem because of, I don't know whether it's the access to porn, whether it's because of movies and things, you don't see like the whole dating thing and the excitement and the like anticipation of like actually dating. And also with, these dating apps, it's a numbers game. They're not meeting in person. Someone could have swiped and could have like 7 or 8 people in their inbox they're all chatting to. It's not like dating. It's just not like dating. It's a whole different thing. And then there is, like you said, there is this expectation because they've sent, these like messages to each other that's kind of, and I just don't think either that you can see attraction through a 2D picture on a phone and a few text messages. There's guys that, I mean, my fiance now, I don't think I would ever have swiped on his picture and go, right, I want to meet this guy. If I read his thing and I saw his age and I saw a photo, I don't think I'd have gone, oh yeah, let me swipe right on him. Is it swipe right? It's swipe right if you like him.
I think so.
He's too old for a dating app anyway. You're never too old, they say, but he swears he's never been on one. And I think as well, there's a lot of people you would miss, and then there's a lot of people that you go, oh, he's really hot. It's simply just the physical.
Yeah.
You swipe on them, and then they don't have the charisma, what is it, in person, or you don't have the chemistry, because you still might not. It could be the most attractive looking person, but you might not have that chemistry, or it's just something that you don't know, I think, until you meet somebody. And I've heard horror stories of people that have been like, messaging and thinking this guy's great, and then they meet in person, it's like, oh my god, there was just wasn't there, or the conversation didn't flow,
and they've kind of invested in that person as well. I remember one of my friends, so she hadn't got divorced, but she had separated, and she'd started going on dates and things. And I remember her saying that she didn't want to meet this guy because she'd almost just told, like, I don't want to say use him as a counsellor, but just like said too much.
Oh, wow.
Because he was online. So he was just someone that was just replying, And like you say, if that was online, that wouldn't be the same. And it does feel like everything's fast. Everything's like instant gratification. People have lost their patience, and I think with social media, the reels and the shorts, I think they're between like 15 seconds, 30 seconds. I think TikTok started, and it's just ping, 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 ping. Like, there's just no one is allowed to be bored. No one is allowed to like see something all the way through, because like they make such an instant judgment on the person or the video or whatever. So I think it does change the way that people are and interact with each other. So yeah, the expectations of sex, dating, instant gratification. And the other thing in this book, the third thing I wanted to talk about was like the wolf pack. So what she was saying was, you've got a child and they are on the Xbox, let's say, and they are able to speak and communicate with people all over the world. And then what happens is people will meet up on the dark web with the intention to find vulnerable children. So they'll meet, and that's the wolf pack, and then they'll separate. And they'll go on all these like gaming rooms, and they'll go on the prowl. And they will pick up information that the child unknowingly gives. So how long they are spending on the computer, what time of day they're on the computer. If they've got the headphones in, like they can hear the noise, so there's lots of arguments. If their parents say like, oh, I'm going shopping, and they go shopping every Saturday at 10 a.m. And then when they find like a victim, then that wolf will go back to their chat room, and then they'll bring all the wolves to this gaming room or whatever.
Oh my
and then
God.
They will all manipulate that child to get more information. It was something like geolocating, so they can find out where you are and things like that, and then that puts the child at risk.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that. Do you know what? It's so scary. There's a lot of stuff I think I don't know about the website and the way these people operate.
Because you don't think like that.
Exactly. I think that's it. If you don't think like that, it's like, whoa, it wouldn't have crossed my mind that that's what people do, because I can't imagine doing it myself.
Yeah, it just blew my mind. And I remember I told someone on a course that I was on, and one of the guys got really upset because so he was having a bit of a battle about how long his child was on the computer for. And I think possibly there's a little bit of guilt there, like, am I putting my child at risk?
Yeah.
But I can understand where, the teenagers are getting a bit stroppy or whatever and don't want to come off. So I'm not kind of like blaming or shaming anyone. But I think to be aware of the dangers as well, like, I don't want to like scaremonger or anything, but I think to have, I heard the other day, I'm going to get the saying wrong, but it was ski with the snow under you. be aware of your surroundings, but just work with what you got. And I think that having an awareness of these issues and the dangers of social media and the addictions of it.
Do you know, I think it is really important to be aware, and a lot of people want to put their head in the sand and go, oh, it doesn't happen. But I think the more aware you can be, the more you can protect. So another thing I heard, for example, was there's AirPods that you can use. You put them on your keys so you can find your keys, but people are popping them in kids, like they might hoodies or pockets, so they can track where the kids go home to, or women. They might meet somebody in a club and pop a little AirPod thing in their tracker so they can track where they go home to, or the routes people take and walk. So it's really important to be aware of these things just to protect yourself, because
so
you
here
you
we
don't
are
think
encouraging people to meet face to face, and then that happens.
And then, I know, it's scary, isn't it? It is. But with all this technology, there's technology that can help you, but there's always these bad characters that can find a way to use it for bad as well.
Yeah.
And so I think the key is to know what can be done, and to open your mind to what the worst case scenarios are, so you can just be like, okay, mindful. Not paranoid or like really scared, but just mindful of what you can do to look after yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just go through these points briefly just to list them, and then there's just one more thing I want to talk about. So when I was having a look at the negative effects of social media, so we've got deterioration of activity in real life.
Yeah.
So you spend so much time, and like I say, so 2.5 hours is the worldwide average time. If you spent 2.5 hours learning a new skill, imagine who you could be in a year's time. FOMO, like I don't think I suffer with that. I think I'm okay. Like, yeah. Do you have FOMO?
I don't really, but I know a lot of people that do. And even if people aren't necessarily showing like parties or going out doing fun things, I know people that see like these coupley things, and then everyone posts the best couple pictures. And I've known people that go to think, oh, my relationship's not like that, or I'm not, he's helping me put the Christmas tree my husband doesn't help me put the Christmas tree decorations, and here's this beautiful picture of everyone hanging the Christmas decorations perfectly. And my sister was actually one of the people that did that. I'm like, Mel, I hang my Christmas decorations myself every year. In fact, I don't even do Christmas decorations normally, and the only reason I put Christmas decorations up is because Billy really likes them. So I've started doing it for him, and he doesn't help me. So don't worry about it. Nothing wrong with our relationship. No, it's not going to have an Instagram picture of us hanging our little stars on the trees.
That's a good point as well about expectations, like realistic expectations of that your relationship is not going to be Instagram perfect forever. And then thinking, if you think that somebody else's is, like, what is it that's going wrong in yours? Isolation and sitting in an echo chamber when you're not meeting people, depression, cyberbullying, self-absorption. So one of the things that I used to get was, oh, do you only just take selfies of you? Is that all you do? Just post selfies? And I was like, but I'm not getting anyone else in trouble when I'm just posting videos of me. I'm not having to ask for permission, because not everyone wanted a picture of me. Like, I did ask if I took a group photo or anything like that. But yeah, so that was the reason why I did, because it would have been a nightmare trying to get permission from like everyone. So yes, I did just put pictures of me. But it wasn't because I'm self-absorbed.
Yeah, but you were also like, I'm here in Lichfield, or I'm here in, I'm here in this town walking for this reason. It's not like the people that do themselves all up, go and find their best outfit, hold a designer bag and take a selfie and then shove a filter over it. You were there walking in to say, I'm in this city today, I'm in this city today, I'm in this city today. I think it's very different.
Do you know what you just reminded me of then? I saw a video and it was a bit of parent shaming, and you only got that small snippet, so you don't get the full context. But this lady was on holiday and she took her daughter, and they had like matching costumes or whatever, and she staged all these like happy photographs and then just like went into the hotel room. Oh, no. How sad is that? You're not even going swimming, getting your hair wet.
That's what I mean. It's like sometimes people just don't enjoy the moment because they're too busy trying to take a picture of it.
Oh my
Happens
gosh,
a lot.
we were talking about that today. So Rob like would go raving and stuff like that. I don't really know. I just say it's noise that he listens to in the car. But I think he was showing me a Tidy Weekend, and he showed a video. I think it was both the same festival. And one was from like say 10 years ago, and one was like a recent one. And the amount of people that had their phones. Just watching it through their phones, they're not enjoying that experience. So at Tidy Weekend years ago, everyone was dancing, everyone was having loads of fun. However, now they're just stood there straight.
It's weird. It is weird.
Are you warm enough? Do you want me to close the door?
No, I'm fine.
You're
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. So just watching it through their phone.
It is mad. You see that a lot, actually. You see that a lot at concerts. You see that a lot just...
You've paid money to be there.
Yeah, I mean, when I went to Spain, I think in 2 weeks, I might have taken like 3 pictures because I was like, you know what, I can't be bothered, and what am I doing? I'm laying by a pool. It's not that.
Your yoga videos were very impressive.
Oh, thank you. I did do a couple
impressive.
of yoga vids with some pretty backgrounds, but aside from that, it was like, I can't really. What can I? Let me just do. I just got to enjoy this holiday, and it's funny. Since I got thrown off Instagram, I have to say, I've used it far less, and I've really actually enjoyed it. I remember speaking to Leanne Brown about it just before I got thrown off.
She got kicked off as well.
She got kicked off before me, and she said, "You know what, Leilani, I kind of feel it as like a cleanse, and it's like and in a way, it was great. It's great because I was always like, oh, I better put something up for my social media, and then it was not going to make everyone else happy. And I was like, you know what? It's fine. And I've kept my horse one, and I've just put pictures of my horses up, which is like basically my photo album. You rarely see me in it, but it'll be all my horses, and because that's what makes me, happy, whether they're muddy or.
I think the first picture I saw of you was with your bloody nose.
Yeah, I'd got clocked in the nose by my horse while I was riding her. She threw her head up. She saw a pheasant, threw her head up, and it was like pouring. So if you hear me like snivelling, I haven't got the best. I don't breathe that well. I'm a bit of a mouth breather now. I'm like, I've broken my nose so many times.
Sound like our dog.
Yeah, I do. Well, your dog's got a long nose. I sound like more like a bulldog. Actually, or a pug.
So we've got interruptions of sleep, and I think I'm guilty of this. So it doesn't happen very often, but I will go through phases where I will wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it'll last like a couple of weeks, and then I'll kind of go back. But I'll pick up my phone.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to make too much noise. And then like the screen time and the brightness.
The blue light.
Yeah. And also like the simulation of what you're watching. Like, is it annoyed you? Is it scared you?
Yeah.
So the impacts on sleep, addiction to it. And I think very often, people, it's like they've lost an arm if they forgot their phone. And I know Rob will go mad at me because as often as I can, I'll just leave my phone at home.
Yeah.
But it's happened twice when I filled up petrol, and then I've had no money to pay the petrol.
Oh no!
But luckily, sorry, that's a lie. Sorry. It's happened once, but the first time the contactless thingy broke, and I had filled up. But it happened once where I'd forgot my phone, but luckily he pulled up behind me because he saw the van.
Oh.
And then he was like, "Oh, I'll just go and see Jen." And I had no money. I had no way of paying.
Oh no!
Yeah. So yeah, for me it's more functional, like to use as payment. But people, it is like they've just lost an arm.
No, I agree with you. And I didn't realise how addicted I was to my Instagram until it got taken away. I was almost like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? I've lost my Instagram. I lost 67,000 followers. Like, what? Oh, what am I going to do? Then I was like immediately trying to set up another one that got taken down like within a day. And I was like, and I had like anxiety, and I was trying to get my account back. And then I just realised, like, who cares? Like, say what? And now, I'm not really, I'll post the odd thing I do. Like I'll post a clip from this podcast and say, oh, I'm doing it, or I'll post a clip from GB or iconic, but I won't. It's very rare now. I just can't be bothered. I can't be bothered. It's too much effort, and I realise it was an addiction. And then when I'm on there posting my stuff, then I start scrolling through others, and it's like, you know what? Why don't I just call my friends or hang out with my friends and see what they're doing and see what they've been up to?
Yeah, and that's why I only follow my husband on Instagram, so that the feed didn't get like clogged up, because then you can just scroll and scroll, and there's no end to the scroll. You never complete it. So it's only Rob that I follow on Instagram for that reason, just to help like streamline and clear my mind. So we've got increase in self-harm and eating disorders, and there are lots of places, even on like the same app, so TikTok, you can get like, it's madness where you get like sections and pockets of awful like attitudes where they will encourage self-harm and they will encourage eating disorders and give out tips.
I've heard about this. I've never come across it myself, but I've heard about it, and I've seen, but I have seen things like people showing off, like teenagers showing off mastectomy scars, like little young girls, 14, 15-year-old girls showing mastectomy scars. And usually alongside it, there's a lot of self-harm, razor blade cuts on the arms and stuff. So it's...
There was one who had her uterus removed and she kept it in a jar.
Oh!
And she was making this big thing about like having it on a bookshelf. So when dates came round, they could talk about her uterus.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. That's so...
But I just think, do you know what? If that is the most interesting thing about you...
Yes! If that's what I think, get a hobby. That's what I always think. If, you can see these people, they can talk about gender and what it means to them, like, till the cows come home, with all these, like, as we were saying at the start, all these crazy big words and blah, 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 that mean nothing. But all this, like, big vocabulary. But it's like, really? Like, what do you do for fun?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do for fun? How do you enjoy yourself? Is that what you do? Talk in your group about gender and roles and what it means, and like, what do you do for fun? Like, it's a sad life.
If you removed that conversation, removed that part of your identity for a month, who are you?
Yeah.
What do you talk about? So if you can't talk about it for a month, because I know, and I've spoke about it on other podcasts, but I was kind of toiling with my identity, that I didn't want the walk to just be my identity. Like, I wanted to make sure there was what I was doing and who I was. So if you took that sandwich board away from me, I'd have tons to do.
Yeah.
Tons to talk about. But I do worry a little bit about these people that, if you were to take that away from them, who are they? What would they talk about?
Right. Probably be like taking me talking about horses away.
Yeah, but you've got more than that's an interest of yours.
Yeah, but
you could take it away.
It's pretty
for a
healthy.
month.
It's a good healthy thing. But yeah, no, there'd be loads. I'm kind of kidding. But I am a horsey girl. So. But it's true. It's like, what, you and I, we can sit and talk for like hours about anything. But it's sad when you just think, God, what do you do? Fun? What is that? And I think it's the same thing when people are wearing pronouns on their next to their name. It's like, okay, this is my name. Do you know what? Instead of she, her, I would love to have like animal lover.
A conversation starter.
Yeah, that's my identity. DIY trier. Loads of stuff. There's loads of stuff. Like, if you can have something about you on your name badge, I don't want she, her. I want Leilani Dowding. Doesn't shut up, like, whatever. Just anything but like she, her.
Was that what your reports used to say at school?
Always talking. Very disruptive, can't focus, can't concentrate, talks a lot, sometimes I have to separate her. Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, so I've the last part of this bullet point here is about that it's skewing your reality.
Yeah.
Because if you think that everyone, so like with the eating disorder one, let's use that as an example, if you submerge yourself just in this eating disorder dark corner of TikTok, then you think that everyone, like, you think that's normal then, because everyone you watch is doing it.
Right.
And your parents can be there, like, watching recipes and fitness videos and not having any idea of the negative impact that this same app is having on their son or daughter.
You know what? That is actually a really, really good point. And I think that goes across the board with a lot of things. So that's a great example with like the eating disorders. But I remember when I was doing real estate, I was following loads of real estate accounts, right? So I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Literally everyone's a realtor. How am I going to operate in this market? And when I first started real estate and didn't really know the big real estate agents, really didn't know. I mean, I knew the business. I got my license. This is in Los Angeles. You have to have a license. It's also like being a conveyor. So you do all the paperwork for the sales. When I was a little bit oblivious, you could call it beginner's luck, whatever. But I did loads of sales. I was like the best in my year for that. But I didn't know who the big agents were. I wasn't following them, and then therefore I didn't feel inferior to them. So that's another thing when you have this bubble, and sometimes even if it is really related to you, same with my horse, like, you know, I just like posting my horsey stuff, but sometimes when I follow the big accounts of the big top show jumpers and stuff, you know, you just see them out competing and how incredible they are and how I'll never actually be like that. And then I feel, oh gosh, you know, but what's my thing? My thing is not out competing. So it doesn't even matter what they're doing. What I want to do is show how much I love my horses, and I hope that comes across with all the things that I do. You know, I'm not always riding them, I'm playing with them, I'm grooming them, I'm you know, sat on them without a saddle or bridle and all of that. So I think it's a really good point that you can look at social media, even in the context of your work and your hobbies, and feel like very inferior as to everybody else. But that's not reality. Like on one of my yoga videos, Billy went, "Your leg's shaking in that one. You're not quite straight." I'm like, "Shut up, Billy. Like 99% of the world can't do this." He goes, "But that's not your competition, is it? Your competition is the top yogis that can." I'm like, "No. It's just my bloody Instagram. I'm not competing for a yoga challenge. I am not qualified. I'm just a person making a little video." And that's the thing, you know, with social media as well, like trying not to compare yourself to anyone else and just doing the best that you can do.
And I think a lot of people, as you were talking then, I was thinking that a lot of people who are new to, let's say, competing with their horses, doing competitions or with the real estate and following big accounts, a lot of people, it might be too intimidating for them to even start.
Well, this was it. It was like, I guess I didn't follow up with what I was saying with the when I was doing really well at the start, I wasn't following these big agents. As I started following these big agents, I then became a little insecure and questioning my ability, because I was comparing myself to these, you know, agents that are selling $10-15 million homes, when I'm really selling like $1 million, $500,000 homes, which is like entry point in LA, which is still, compared to the rest of the country of America, huge in other states. So, or other parts of California even. So it was really silly of me to allow social media to probably second guess myself when I was doing a pretty good job.
Maybe you were part of the 700,000 Facebook research where they were just trying to get some emotional contagion out of you. So the last thing that I want to talk about is, I saw a headline of you in Stoke-on-Trent with your oatcakes. And have you got it up on your phone?
Oh, no, I haven't got my oatcakes up.
No, I'll put the oatcake one up,
the other
but the other one we were talking about. Do you want to read that headline?
Oh, yeah. They're causing a strain on the NHS. Leilani Dowding accuses fat people of making lockdown longer in searing attack.
And what was it you said? So
this is what I said. So that was the headline. So what I actually said was, it seems that healthy people who believe in good food, fresh air and vitamins are accused of spreading misinformation. And it tends to be by unhealthy people with poor diets who rely on big pharma accusing them. So what I was trying to say is, like, I guess what happened is I was saying I didn't think it was right that we got locked down. And it was unhealthy people saying, no, everyone needs to be locked down. And I'm like, but I don't believe in that. So there was that one. And then I said, after seeing articles and quotes from doctors about the correlation between obesity and the severity of COVIDs, effects, it's completely fair on healthy people to be locked down and, we're sick of it. And then I also said, and then of course they were like, you irresponsible anti-lockdowners, you're the ones causing the strain on the NHS. And I said, this is where they use the fat quote. Fat people cause the most strain on the NHS. Fast food is open, but gyms, sports, golf, tennis, yoga classes, boxing classes, martial arts, swimming, ballet, gymnastics are all banned. So I did use the word fat, but it's all semantics really, because I could have said obese or overweight, but sometimes muscly people are considered overweight by the BMI. So I said fat people. So apparently that's a searing, scathing attack. But to be quite honest, I think that I stand by everything. That I said I wasn't being mean about it. I was just using facts, and people didn't like.
And that is a descriptive term. And I guess it's the person who interprets that, because, your tone of voice will make it different to how I interpret, my feelings, if you were to say it to me, for example. But it is a descriptive term. And I think that we were having a conversation before where I said about a black marathon runner who was in the military and the SEALs and got all these medals, and he's an absolute machine. And when I was asking someone who he was, I described him as the black, bald marathon runner who was in the military. And the response was, no, that's not him. And it was.
And it was.
But it was because I was using those descriptive terms. Like, I said black because I'm not black.
And he is black.
And he is.
Because I've seen a photo.
He's different to me. And the same that if it was a black person, they possibly would use the white marathon. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, of
they're
course.
different to me.
Well, you're describing it. Anybody, I would probably say, you'd go white with blue eyes, or blonde hair, blue eyes, or, if he wasn't black, you say dark skinned or olive skinned. Like, if I was to describe myself physically, I would say I'm olive skinned, mix of something, ethnically ambiguous, brown hair, sometimes I say tan skin, or average height, skinny. I wish.
Oh, you've got a gorgeous figure.
Thank you.
Honestly, those yoga videos, I say, if you haven't checked them out, have a look.
Thank you. So I think, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying these things. But if you were to go, oh, she's a skinny bitch.
Yeah, and we were saying that. So I was in a works Zoom meeting, or maybe Teams, and on about taking some photos, and the lady said, oh, it's all right if you're a skinny bitch. And I didn't have a particularly long, lengthy relationship with her. I didn't really know her. I'd never met her in person. And I didn't really like it. And I found the hypocrisy, because if I'd have said to her, oh, you fat bitch, you fat cow,
right,
it wouldn't have been okay.
But it's the context in which she said it and the words used afterwards as well. So, I just, even if you're kind of joking, I don't think it's that funny when... if it was your best friend and you go, oh, you're such a bitch, then it's one thing. But if you don't really know someone and you go, oh, you're such a bitch, and then you add in like skinny, fat, black, white, then it's offensive. It is offensive, and it changes it. So I think it all depends in the context. And if I'd said obese people are a strain on the NHS, which is a fact, then it's semantics between fat and obese. I'm not using it as to be an arsehole. I'm just saying, a simple fact.
Yeah, and I guess the problem that I have with the kind of fat acceptance movement is before 2020, like, it didn't even enter my mind about the size of people. I didn't even think about it. But then with 2020, 2021, like you say, the amount of obese people who, and I wonder, if this was part of the AI, so they would have a look at someone's like profile picture maybe, or see the picture uploads, and then like boost their profiles onto like yours, so then it causes division.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. Anything's possible.
I wonder.
But I think fat acceptance is a very unhealthy thing.
Yeah.
Just like, no different when I was modelling and you saw the fashion models in the time that I was a glamour model. I think it was like, you know, Kate Moss and the heroin chic was in, where they were these waif looking, skinny, almost androgynous looking females, which I always said, like, this is a way of, I always thought then that this is a way that they could be male or female. They're just skinny, non-womanly, androgynous looking, and it was called like heroin chic kind of look as a nickname. And I thought that was really unhealthy, and there was so much backlash against it, about it being really unhealthy. So why suddenly are we saying, like, let's go the other way and just use fat, obese people in marketing and media and call it body acceptance, or is that what it is?
Fat acceptance.
Fat acceptance, because that also is unhealthy. Like, why aren't we promoting like fit, healthy body types? You know, not stupid, excessively skinny, not androgynous looking things, not plastic, fake looking lips, fake boobs looking things, and not fat. Like, let's, you know, promote a healthy body type. And it's just weird that that's not happening. And I think it's really unhealthy, because it's just a fact that being anorexically thin is bad, just like being overweight is unhealthy on your heart and your you know, diabetes and all the rest of it.
And people can pretend pretend for as long as they want that like you're a bit of a dick for saying it, but it's accurate. Like, you know, if you are at either end of the spectrum of weight, that's not a healthy place to be. And I think that promoting healthy people,
right,
and having an awareness, like, we are different shapes, you know, but we've got different body types, so we will be different sizes. We're not going to fit in the same jeans, and I think that's okay. But the extremes, I just don't think the media, it's healthy at all, whether it's like the zero or the obese person. And someone made a good point about, so it was about the models and how, like in the fashion models that you're talking about, it's predominantly gay men who are like high up in that industry.
Exactly.
So then they are putting their version of attractive. Because as you were, I forgot about that point actually, but as you were talking, I was kind of thinking they look like boys. Like they look like,
they had no hips. You know, a lot of them were like super flat chested. You know, this is back in the day, and now like that transsexual men have boob jobs. They're all, you know, boob jobs are all the rage or whatever. So back in the day, they were very like little boy looking, like prepubescent girl, little boy looking. And it was just, you know, but then you had the supermodels who were just gorgeous women, Cindy Crawford, Naomi Campbell, Helena Christensen, Claudia Schiffer, just beautiful, you know, women with hips and boobs and nothing fake about them. And then you went through this like super skinny, like boyish, waify, androgynous time, and now you've got like, let's just get unhealthy.
And I think what I found frustrating during like lockdowns and things was, as I say, I've never paid too much attention before to other people's waist size, but then when I was seeing it in newspapers, where you did have these obese people that were getting really mad, and I'm, you know, so I didn't have the vaccine, and I didn't feel I needed to. You know, it's all about the risk balance, and I've got a reasonably good diet. I don't drink too much, I don't smoke, but I go to the gym and I walk the dogs. And I think what I found really frustrating, and this was the first time that I even paid attention really to somebody's size, was in these newspaper articles where these large people were telling me that I was unhealthy, that I was the problem. And I'm thinking, I'm getting up at 6:15 in the morning here to go running, like to go to the gym, to go circuits. And I don't want to. I'd much rather stay in bed. Like, it's winter, it's cold, it's dark. Like, I'd much rather stay in bed. And I did find that difficult. I found that really difficult because it is a lot of work and effort to, you know, not get fat. to be honest.
Especially with like there's so much like good tasting junk food and everything out there, that to watch, to put healthy food in you, it takes effort. It's cooking, it's preparation. It's not quick, easy, ready meals,
Discipline to say
it's
no.
discipline. And I think, and that was huge for me. And it really aggravated me because, I'm 43 years old and I have tried. I probably wasn't as healthy when I was modelling, but I barely drink. I've never smoked. I don't do drugs. I don't even like to take an aspirin. If I've got a headache, Billy's my fiance. Billy will say to me, have you had an aspirin or a paracetamol? And I'm like, oh, I forgot. I just go and drink loads of water and hope it will go away. I forget that there's, even over-the-counter drugs, because I'm just try and do things naturally and homeopathically, and I try and eat well and, have vitamins or whatever if I think I'm deficient. So it really irritated me when people that don't look after their health try to tell me that I'm selfish because I don't want to lock down, or because I'm not worried about COVID, or telling me that I'm selfish because I won't take a vaccine. So I think it came out as kind of an outburst, but I stand by what I said, and I guess I've doubled down on it by saying it again here, that as a healthy person, I don't, feel the need for any of it. And I think lockdowns were, a huge mistake.
And we know that now from all the reports coming out.
Exactly.
Do I think that people struggle with their weight? Yes. Do I think there are large people who would like to be smaller and put in all the work, all the effort, but there's something within them that isn't letting them? I do think that. Do I think there are people on the other end of the spectrum who would love to put on weight? Yes. However, I think that, like with all of these mainstream media narratives, whatever one that you're looking at, whether it's race, whether it's body acceptance, whether it's the trans movement, I think there are individuals who need that help, but then these movements get hijacked.
Yeah.
And then it's just used as an excuse for whatever. So I do think that there are people on either end of the spectrum who struggle and who would love to change their body shape. But what I saw during 2020, 2021 was a lot of large people in the newspaper, and it did annoy me. It did annoy me because it takes a lot of effort.
And like you as well, if I was, I wouldn't, there's people who are ill, say they had cancer or whatever, I wouldn't be going around people like that. But I wouldn't if I had the flu. I wouldn't if I had a cold. If someone is a vulnerable or elderly person, if I was feeling ill with, anything, I would, when I feel ill anyway, I just go to bed and I take time off and I just try and sleep and drink lots of water and what have you. And I would have done that. By the way, I've never tested positive for COVID. So I would have done that and protected who I like when when you hear these bigger people in the newspaper saying that we're all selfish and that we should have stayed in and had the jab for them, I'm like, no, I look after myself in my own way. You're welcome to, if you think the jab's looking after you, you're welcome to do that. If you don't think getting healthy is for you, you also don't have to do that, but just don't tell me what to do. And I'm not going to tell you what to do.
It's very easy to point the finger, to blame someone, to be angry at someone else, to tell someone else what to do, and then to not do anything about it yourself. Yeah. So, are there any questions that you think I should have asked you that I didn't?
Gosh, I think we went through a lot.
We did,
Is it my
We've
ADHD?
done well. That's an hour and a half. That might have to be 2 parts.
I like jumping around all subjects. It's ADHD.
No, that was fantastic, Leilani. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed speaking to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.